Okay, we are now live. So good afternoon, everyone in Trio Land. My name is Cameron Coley. I am a tutor coordinator or academic advisor at Southeastern Oklahoma State University, and we have a special co-host this week, Nick Mizell. Um,
Hello, everyone. My name is Nick Mizell. I'm the program coordinator for the McNair Scholars Program here at Southeastern.
so we are really excited about today's show. We strive to invite people that talk about either their students, or we have people that um, are students themselves, and we highlight a couple of goals. So we are making sure that we are keeping our voices loud and proud of how relevant Trio is by talking about how it works. And we do that by talking about how students have benefited by either their career trajectory or benefited in their socioeconomic trajectory. And we alternate weeks talking to a Trio professional and them talking about the students that they have served. And then we also interview Trio alumni. And we also like to talk every week about what constitutes a Trio alumni. So Trio alumni is any student or any adult that's benefited from a TRIO program and has participated in a TRIO program. There are TRIO programs that work with adults of any age to get them back into some sort of training or educational program. And then there are TRIO programs that work with middle school students, high school students, and they're working to get them into either a two-year program or a bachelor's level degree institution, degree granting institution. So the whole goal of Trio is to help uplift someone from where they came from to plant them in another place, and we are proving that by hearing people's stories. So anyone who wants to have any questions or comments at the time at the end where we will have that, please unmute yourself at the end and ask your question, or you can put your question in the chat or your comment, and we will share that with the person being interviewed. Also, we would appreciate if everyone would keep their cameras off so that the focus is on the hosts, Nick and myself, and then Tosh. Um, so Nick is such a great person that he is going to stand in for Philip, who, originally hails from Belgrade, Serbia, and Nick said, I can act as if I'm from Belgrade, Serbia. That's just me. So,
Off the
uh,
most daring Philip impression. No, thank you, Cameron. I appreciate that. I'm happy to stand in for a quick week while or get this opportunity to do so.
so, with that discussed about why we do what we do here, we are going to introduce our person we invited to speak. So this is episode 7, and we are glad that we have some repeat people coming in to view this. We have Batesville, Arkansas in the house. We have Farmington, New Mexico in the house. We have Northern Oklahoma in the house, and we have Tulsa, Oklahoma in the house. So we have some great people in our audience. This week, we are speaking with Tosh Miller, and Tosh has been the TRIO Student Support Services Director at Northwestern Oklahoma State University in Alva, Oklahoma for the past 4 years. Prior to this, he worked in nonprofits, tech startups, and was a teaching assistant and library research assistant in graduate school. Tosh holds a bachelor's degree in mass communications from the University of Central Oklahoma in Edmond, Oklahoma, and a master's of divinity from Midwestern Baptist Theological Seminary in Kansas City, Missouri. Tosh is an ordained minister And besides work, he has donated his time to trio, what I call trio service work. He has been on several committees over the past 3 years. He was on the Trio Day committee in 2024. And then this past year, he was co-chair with Natalie Hampton, who is the project director of Upward Bound Math Science at the University of Central Oklahoma. And they were co-chairs for Constitution and Bylaws, and they did a great job. Tosh is also a sports fanatic, having played baseball in college and supports teams where he's lived in Oklahoma City and Kansas City, Missouri, though he has also been known to watch any sporting event that's on TV. He is also a collector, husband, father of three beautiful sons, and a problem solver. So, with that, um, that's quite an introduction. I will hand it over to Nick for our first few questions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Cameron. Tosh, I really appreciate you taking some time to chat with us today. It's great to see you and get to chat with you. So the
Yeah,
first,
thanks for having me.
absolutely, yeah. The first question we touched about it a little bit on your intro bio, but what was your career history before you started working in Trio?
Yeah, so when I was in college, I worked at a tech startup and at the Oklahoma City Zoo, um, which was fun. Both of those were fun. And then when I moved off to go to grad school, I started working at the library and then got into being a TA and was hoping to go the academic route and ended up not going that path at the time. And so I started working in some churches, both in Kansas City and then down here in Northwest Oklahoma before Trio.
Wonderful. That's awesome. Yeah. It's some great experiences for sure. I guess what would you say motivated you to work in Trio specifically in this field?
Well, so I actually I didn't know Trio existed until I got here to Northwest Oklahoma and was looking for a position at the college here. So I kind of fell into it on accident. But one of the things that drew me in was that I've always loved working with people that need help. I love seeing people and students, especially, kind of come to what I've called the light bulb moment, where they get it for the first time. But then also, my dad was a first generation college graduate. And then my wife is a person with a disability. And so both of those really are near and dear to my heart. And so it just really became a good fit.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great answer. I think your answer was really wonderful. I think that Trio in general attracts a lot of people who have that sort of helper mindset and find it fulfilling to get to help other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's excellent. I think Cameron has a couple more questions, I believe. I'll pass it back over to him.
So, Tosh, I like how you said that you look for that light bulb moment with students.
Yeah.
So, I'm wondering if you were able to have that moment in other positions before working in Trio, where you kind of knew that you really like to see that meaningful mindset come to be with who you're helping. Because you said in your bio that you're a problem solver. So you obviously kind of had to figure that out before working in Trio that you like helping connect people to a resource. So how did you see that in other positions before coming to Trio?
Yeah. So when I worked at a tech startup, one of the things that, I was in college, I was single, didn't have a family. And so there were occasionally times that we would put in 16-hour days and it was brutal, but I could do it. And so I was just always looking for, hey, how can we make this easier? And so helping other people find ways to make it easier or being able to make that easier along the way was kind of my first, not my first foray, but my biggest one into, hey, this is actually something that I can do, that I can use in a professional setting. So when I got to grad school and I started working at the library, I was doing research and interlibrary loan stuff, working with everybody from undergrads to doctoral students who were either struggling to use the resources or really not even knowing where to start. Uh, And so I love being able to see, like, hey, this isn't as scary as it seems. And um, you can, learn how to use the resources yourself, or you can come and learn how to ask the right questions. And boy, just when somebody is hitting their head against a wall because they don't know where to find a source, or they don't know how to, some people come into college not knowing how to write or really even build an argument. And so kind of helping them start from the ground up there at the library and then as a TA, man, that just higher education is a spot where you get to see that all the time. And I love that. I love that here. And it's different for everybody. Obviously, working in SSS program, we're just a classic. So we're not specialized in education or STEM or anything else. So we have students from across the board from every discipline that comes into our offices, and getting to flex those uh, problem solving muscles to help students find that light bulb moment across the spectrum is great. Um, that just I love it.
So I can see like you have a passion for what you do. And
Yeah,
I'm wondering like, student support services looks different on each campus a little bit.
yeah.
So can you describe like the culture of Northwestern Oklahoma State University in Alva and how your student support services program fits into that culture of that campus?
Yeah, so our program here is we've pushed from the I've pushed from the get-go that we are very welcoming to whoever walks in the door, and we kind of have to be. We're a really small campus with 1,500 students, a lot of really rural students from really small schools. You wouldn't think that moving to a town of 5,000 people with 1,500 students on campus would be a culture shock in the upwards direction. But the
Hmm.
students that we serve here, absolutely. We've got lots of students that graduate with uh, teens or even single digits in their classrooms. Um, Northwestern serves kind of a really really broad, wide area. I think it's something like 10,000 square miles of being the only four-year institution kind of in this direction. So there's not really another four-year school west of Oklahoma State and Stillwater, all the way to Panhandle State out in Goodwill, except for us, north of I-40 and Southwestern in Weatherford, all the way up to like Wichita State. We are the four-year school. And even if you kind of go into Western Kansas, Dodge City and Garden City are two-year schools. And so we have a wide variety of students that come here to Northwestern. And so I've tried to build into our office from the get-go is we're going to see a lot of different people. We're going to be welcoming to a lot of different types of people. And we want our students to come in and feel like they have a spot to come talk and complain and learn and grow. Many of our students going to smaller schools, they will have their person on campus when they're in high school. Whether it's a guidance counselor, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a coach, whether it's the secretary at the front desk, they will have their person that they know and cheers them on. And it's small enough that you really get to know each other and see each other. And so they move here and they're trying to find that person. And we want to be that person to help them be successful on campus. And so what we have done is um, we have our advisors, but then we also build in um, our peer mentor program into it,
Hmm.
where our peer mentors do things like help our students with SMART goals, um, so that we can kind of, identify what is success at each, for each student at each level. But then they'll also do things outside of just connecting them with resources on campus. We'll have peer mentors who will take students to sit with them at lunch with their friends, because they're having a hard time meeting new people on campus, or who will meet up with them at 10 o'clock at night because they're like, hey, it's late. I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm studying and I don't want to be alone. Right. And
Mhm.
so just finding a way to be that person for our students on campus.
Like it sounds like you're talking about creating a culture of hospitality and community
Yeah.
on a campus where people have been, maybe they've known everyone that they've grown up with their entire life, and
Yeah.
this is their first time stepping out, and sometimes that you're helping them to take the small steps, simple steps in the process of leading them to success.
Mhm.
And going along those lines, how have you seen the effects of what Trio does for the students you serve in Alva, Oklahoma?
Yeah. So I'll use a couple of examples if that's all right.
Go ahead.
So the first one is a student who hasn't graduated yet, but they came in several years ago. They're a senior this year, or they will be a senior starting this fall. Uh, they came in several years ago and they had family members helping them apply to college. They, um, were had very little self-efficacy, very little confidence in themselves and in their ability. Um, and even though I was able to connect with this student before they got to campus via email and a couple of phone calls, it was tough. It was hard to get this student to um, come into the office or to fill out paperwork to even be part of Trio, that I knew this was a student that needed what we could offer. And then by building in that culture of hospitality and welcome, um, we had the student, they were able to come in and fill out paperwork kind of the spring of their freshman year or summer before sophomore year. I don't remember, one of those two. Uh, and then over the course of the next year, by meeting with their peer mentor and their advisor, um, really just grew so much as a person. And we helped them get some accommodations that they had needed, that they were struggling asking for and struggling getting. Um, And then we ended up hiring this student as one of our peer mentors in the future. And then they came and spoke at freshman orientation about what Trio had done for them and how much it had helped them, how much we had helped them. And it was so encouraging to see so much personal growth in a relatively quick, short amount of time from this student, based on the culture that we had built and the relationships that they had built here at our Trio SSS program. Um,
I like how they're reteaching people how you helped them. They're being the role model of how they were. Someone helped them in that same capacity, and they're passing it on. That's what I like about that story.
yeah, absolutely. And I knew even when they came up and they spoke to the incoming freshmen, I could tell that they were nervous, but they did it anyway.
Hmm.
And that was so exciting to see, because a couple of years ago they would not have.
Well, I think you, just like anything, the student soaked up what was poured into them, and then they were
Yeah,
able to empty that cup into somebody else.
yeah, absolutely.
So, like,
Uh,
so what's a story about a graduate that you feel like by being in Trio, it helped their overall career trajectory, that they wouldn't have had that career available to them if they had not been, if they had not chosen to go to college, and then if they had not been a part of the TRIO program at Northwestern Oklahoma State University? And how did it help them move beyond where they had started from?
yeah. So there's one particular student that I have in mind for this that is actually really easy to tell, because they came from a very small town, and they had siblings that tried to go to college somewhere else and did not connect with the trio programs there. Um, and I believe both this student and their siblings were part of Upward Bound when they were in high school. But the sibling did not connect with the trio program at a different university, and ended up ended up coming back. Um, to their small town and where there, are less opportunities and fewer things to be able to advance themselves. Our student came here and they connected with us very quickly and um, were an active participant for all the years that they were here. And then when they graduated, they actually got a job working for the Upward Bound program that they had been a part of. And so they were a tutor while they were in college. They got a job working in the Upward Bound program that they had been a part of before to help other students as well, because they see just how important it is to be part of a helping community and to not feel like you have to do it all on your own, to find somewhere that can be with you and help answer the questions that you don't know the answer to, that maybe um, each of us individually maybe doesn't know all the answers to all the questions or how to help every single student case that comes across our desks, but collectively, um, we as Trio can help our students. And I just love seeing that even pouring back in to other Trio programs.
Well, obviously, something stuck with them from the experience that, building upon their years of Upward Bound and then with you guys,
Yeah.
that it helped them provide enough reflection that they thought, I can do this.
Hmm.
And I think we do a much better job of telling people that they're Trio alumni than we did when I was a student in the 90s in this
Yeah.
student support services program. I didn't realize that I was a Trio alumni until I started working for Trio. And
Hmm.
we've had someone say that in their interview, just about a month ago.
Yeah.
So I think we do a lot better job of instilling that in students and helping them be reflective about what Trio does and how it helps them and everything. I Speaking of reflection, I'm gonna throw the ball back to Nick.
For sure, for sure. There's one more here I've got. This is a very, I think it's a fun question. It's very open, very broad, so you can take it however you like. But
Okay.
this question, it's essentially if you had a time machine and you could go back 10, 15, 20, however many years ago, and you went back, what would you say to yourself? What kind of advice would you give to yourself in that scenario?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest pieces of advice, if I had to go back and give myself advice, um, one of the biggest pieces I would give myself is that um, success is not linear, that you're comparing yourself to all these other people that are getting what you think you want, and that in a few years you're going to find out that, hey, that's not really what you wanted in the first place. Like you thought it was, but it's not. Um, that as I look at my trajectory from the time I graduated high school until here, I don't think I could have predicted the direction that I would have gone. Um, when I graduated high school, I wanted to go into sports broadcasting. Um, in fact, I got a massive cut just underneath my eye on my cheek when I was in high school, and because I wanted to do sports broadcasting on TV, we had like a plastic surgeon fix it up. So I got like 70 stitches in like a 1 inch section of my cheek, and you can't even tell. My wife has to remind me which side it was on because I forget. So you can't tell, and so I wanted to do that. And then I went to college to play baseball and study communications. And my first semester, I got a D in my first communications class. And then a couple semesters later, I withdrew to having a 1.7 GPA. Um, and so I dropped out. I withdrew. I went and got a full-time job. Um, Started back at University of Central Oklahoma a little bit later, um, and so I was kind of behind where I was supposed to be at the time. But if I hadn't gone that way, and even if I had ended up in the same graduate program that I ended up going to, I may not have met my wife or some other people that I ran into that were important. Um, I mentioned earlier that uh, I was a TA and wanting to go into studying with my professor and doing my PhD. We even had a plan of kind of what this was going to look like. And then a week before graduation, I get an email from the provost that that professor is not going to be teaching there at the school anymore. And so I kind of got thrown into, oh man, what do I do now? And I look at people that I graduated with or that were, doing the plan that I had in mind at every step of the way. And the life that they have would not have been for me. And so if I had to give myself advice, I would say, don't think of success as some end goal that you're chasing, but think of success as building the life that you want along the way. That if success is some goal that you have in the future, that's good. But what happens if you don't get it? Or what happens when that goal changes? And so spend your time, working to be successful at what you're doing and being okay with those changes.
Absolutely. That's a wonderful answer. I love the success isn't a linear or it's not a staircase. I love that. That's wonderful. It resonates with me personally, I think too, because it's hard to.
Mine was not straight up. Mine was like
A sinusoidal function, like a sine wave. How about that? That's more
there we
accurate
go.
to describe success, I think. Um, but yeah, I think that's wonderful. That's all I have here. I think Cameron, I believe I'll pass it back to him real quick.
So you're saying your trajectory for life is how people drive in Oklahoma? Is that what you were saying, Tosh? Like all over the
Hopefully
place?
fewer speed bumps along the or potholes along the way. I don't know how it is coming up north from where you're at, Cameron, but I know when we come back in from Kansas, we know exactly where the line moving into Oklahoma is. Um,
Yeah, I know where it's at in Texas, coming from Texas to Oklahoma.
Mhm.
so I'm hoping that my life, maybe it's like driving in Oklahoma, but hopefully the roads are a little smoother.
Well, I think your trajectory ends in a better place, maybe, without potholes, because you don't have potholes in your life right now. Um, well, I, you know, I feel like we in Trio get along really, really well. And I feel like we form a community, and I know there's other Trio professionals on this call. And I know that Nick and you and I just really bond really well. And you've been on committees with me, you've been on committees with Nick.
Yeah.
And since you've decided to volunteer and donate time to our Oklahoma Trio organization,
Mhm.
ODSA, like what's been the benefit of that opportunity? Whether it's, co-chairing Constitution and bylaws with Natalie Hampton. I'm saying her name because I know she's going to be interviewed at some point in the future. I'm just claiming that. I'm just putting that into existence. But like, how has that benefited you?
Um, Honestly, it's been a couple of different ways. Like in one way, it's benefited me to develop relationships and work with people that I probably wouldn't have otherwise. Um, I know one thing that we have tried to do as long as I've been a part of ODSA is to work with people from different areas of the state and from different programs. Um, so like with Nick being in McNair, we probably wouldn't have met or worked together unless we were intentional about like reaching out to people from different programs. And
Yeah, I'd echo
Natalie
that.
being an Upward Bound, like I love meeting new people. It gives us the opportunity, I think, to develop better relationships across Trio. Uh, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Nick.
No, 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 you're totally good. I'll share a quick personal anecdote. It won't take too long, but it's a story about one of the very first times I ever met Tosh. I think this
Oh,
was maybe 1 or 2 years ago now, but we were at the conference. This was actually before I had gotten into McNair, but I've always been interested in research and literature and reading and discussing ideas with people. So I was just sitting there, and Tosh knows where I'm going, and we were sitting around just
mhm.
chatting about something or another. And Tosh comes up and he's got this paper in his hand, and it's a big, long literature peer review paper about self-efficacy for trio students, first gen students, all kinds of different motivating factors, different things like that. And we sat
Uh-huh.
down, and like the very first time I got to talk to Tosh, we just sat and talked shop about trio research and literature, and it was wonderful. And that's sort of an indication for the type of person that Tosh is. He's really interested in getting to discuss these ideas and building the community like we talk about. And yeah, I figured I would share that. But
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's
mm,
I've tried to move a lot of that digitally now rather than
for
carrying a
sure.
bunch of papers around conference all the time. Um, but so developing, relationships with new people, but also just working at the state level has really given me a reminder of why it's important to work with people and make sure that people who are working on the state organization are helping TRIO professionals to do their jobs well. That it sounds really silly coming from, bylaws and constitution committee, but like if we make changes to the bylaws or the constitution that make it harder for us to do our job or make it more difficult for us to, worry about, how we're going to cooperate or, what that looks like on a day-to-day level, then we're able to spend less time helping our students. Um, and so really like the organization works for us, works for TRIO professionals to help make being in trio a little bit easier. We already know that trio is a difficult job where we're trying to keep up with, different regulations and new, CPPs every time we rewrite and, all sorts of other things that we have to keep up with on top of, keeping up with our programs and doing the things that we're supposed to do. Um, and so it really helped me try and take a look at the bigger picture and see the forest through the trees of hey, like what can we do even on the Constitution and Bylaws Committee to make things a little bit easier for everybody.
Well, I
Yeah,
think, oh, go ahead, Nick.
no, that I'm good.
I just think it takes a while to form relationships. And so
Hmm.
I think whether you're forming relationships with students, like you talked about creating a culture of hospitality, it having people on committee work or volunteer, what I call trio service work, doing trio service work, and you're having a culture of internal courtesy and internal hospitality in our statewide organization models for how we form relationships with students and
Yeah.
and helps keep the organization healthy. Um, Going along the lines of service work and giving and filling yourself up because we can't fill from an empty cup. Now we're going to transition into segment three, which I call segment three. So, how have you seen other people practice what they say that they're going to do? Their actions match up to what they're going to do, and focusing on gratitude in general, how do you practice gratitude and how do you make sure that your actions match what you're doing with students to be that role model with because you've had that role modeled for you?
Okay. Um, so I will say one thing just about me internally um, and externally, I am who I am. My wife gives me a hard time about it sometimes, where she's like, "You are the same person whether you meet, or talking to somebody that's homeless that approaches you in a parking lot, or if you're talking to somebody, high up on the food chain somewhere." And I don't know that I've ever necessarily had that modeled, but that's just kind of the way that I've always approached things. Um, because and I want to be that model, be that to show other people kind of how, that's how I want um, I want people to treat me the same way. Um, but as far as gratitude, it kind of builds out from being that way and being that person and being again, like everywhere I go, it's almost funny if I don't run into somebody that I know. Like when I was looking at grad schools, I drove like 14 hours to a different state to go visit a grad school. And when I go check into my hotel, who do I see at the front desk but somebody I played baseball with in college? Um, like of all the places, right? And so like I just run into people that I know everywhere. Um, and so keeping that broad network and keeping being that type of person that is always trying to cultivate that atmosphere and that attitude, I think gets it back from people as well. And so as I'm able to remind people, hey, this is what I appreciate about you and what you've done and your good things, that kind of comes back as well. um, but then also something I've been doing 351 days now, I think. Yeah,
Wow.
352 days. I just checked. There's an app that we've used. We've connected some of our students with it and our staff members to it. It's called Finch, and so it's like um, if anybody remembers like Tamagotchi when you were a kid, you had to like feed your virtual pet and you had to take it for walks and things like that. But this one is like you are the Tamagotchi, so you can build in um, like goals and things and personal well-being and emotional check-ins and things like that to yourself. And so you can set up reminders to say, hey, just looking at my ones for today, hey, the one for today is practice gratitude. One of them is. And so there's a small journaling prompt that's, hey, what can you be grateful for today? And so just it sounds silly, but like checking into this app every day, even if I'm not filling it out every day, it pushes me to, um, you know, hey, what are you grateful for today? Or, you know, doing things to make sure that you take care of yourself, um, which can help towards that positivity and gratitude as well. That, um, you know, um, it sounds really silly, but the app has been helpful to me. I'm not a paid
So
spokesman or anything.
are you sure? Because it kind of comes across that you're a paid spokesman.
Plus, you get to like create a cute little bird and you get micro pets. Right now, I have a superhero frog who hops along with me on adventures. Um,
Yeah.
and so it's cute and it's fun. Uh,
How has that come across for your students, like when you're teaching it to students in your SSS program?
yeah, some of them enjoy the app as well. But really kind of one of the big things that I've drawn from the app and that I will, use and kind of push is even if they don't want to do that, looking at um, using gratitude or whatever it is in a methodology that I've learned as the Seinfeld method, where when people asked Jerry Seinfeld, "How do you write so much?" He said, "I just write every day. It doesn't matter if it's one joke or if it's multiple pages." And he's got a big calendar on his wall where he just puts a red X each day that he writes. And so the goal is just to kind of keep it going. And so, hey, like spend the time, with yourself to check in on yourself too. Um, I've also got a friend that will text me every day, or not every day, but often enough, things that they're grateful for and um, you know, encourages me to respond when I can, of things that I'm grateful for as well, and that's always encouraging too. Having building that community around you that helps encourage you to be grateful for the things that you've got and for where you're at, and everything else.
Well, I think seeing can be believing, so that's why we have this segment where we talk about how people practice gratitude and how they teach it to other people and how their actions match up with what they're doing. Um, because I think it's just a vague concept if you just say, well, just be grateful for what you have. Well, how do you do
Yep.
that? And I think that what you're talking about proves a kind of cliche that a friend of mine has, and he says consistency is greater than perfection.
Yeah.
Like your discipline in
Mhm.
doing something is far greater than trying to do it the right way. And I
Mhm.
think when people talk about gratitude or when they talk about anything that they believe in, there's an either all or nothing type of mindset where you're
Mhm.
either doing it all right or all wrong. And really you have to, it's the relational aspect of it.
Yeah.
And it's the consistency in doing it that is the key to it.
And
Uh,
and I'll also throw in here as well, like it's okay to think of like the smallest things that you're grateful for if you're struggling. So like I'm grateful that I had, an extra $7 to drive through Sonic and get a burrito this morning. Right? Like, that was a delicious burrito. I'm grateful that I was able to do that. And that sounds really silly at times, but sometimes like finding ways to start small rather than like, oh, I'm grateful that, you know, big thing. No, I'm grateful that, I have a pencil that's sharp or, that I had a delicious burrito for breakfast or, you know, for a good internet connection, to be able to talk and, see people that live on the complete opposite side of the state. That,
really, we do live on the very exact opposite side of the state. Really, I mean,
yeah.
that drive to last week to Enid, that's a long drive for us.
Well, and
Um,
Alva's another about an hour and a half further northwest.
actually have been to Alva like twice, but it was like 23 years ago, and it was a long drive even from Stillwater at the time.
Yeah.
Um, I do think it is all about angles, though, like how you train your brain to be more mindful of what you're
Mhm.
looking at and how you're evaluating it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've had a great interview, and I think that I'd like to
Yeah.
thank you for your time and your wisdom that you've spoken of. And so, thank you very much, Tosh Miller, and we can truly see how Trio works, and
Of
how
course.
relevant it is, whether it's at Alva, Oklahoma, or Durant, Oklahoma, or in Farmington, New Mexico, or Batesville, Arkansas, or Lawton, Oklahoma, because we have those people on the call with us.
We
So,
do.
if anyone would like to leave a comment in the chat or have any questions, we don't have people from Alva, Oklahoma all the time with us. So, here's your opportunity to get to know somebody, to get to know the great Tosh Miller. And I was gonna say so I did my graduate assistantship for 3 years in the library at OSU. We have that in common. And
Yes.
I have a knack, and even people that I work with say this, that I have a knack for seeing people I know or remembering people from other places and meeting them in other opportunities later on or something. Like the world is a very small place for me.
Yeah.
Um, so I'll Nick and I will work together, kind of sharing the what people have put in the chat.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, we have a comment here. Angelica says, let's see. I really enjoyed hearing your perspective about success and goals. The path is rarely linear, like you said, and build the life you want along the way. Enjoy every moment and opportunity. Kind of going back into the gratitude, like we're talking about. It seemed silly at the time to be grateful for a breakfast burrito or a sharp pencil, but it builds towards the momentum of being grateful as a practice. I think that
Yeah.
that's a wonderful thought to share. Thank you, Angelica.
And then Rick left 2 comments. He says, "Thank you so much for sharing, Tosh." And then he said above that, "Those kinds of friends are amazing to have." I'm
I
guessing
think
he's
that came
talking
in
about.
from when I mentioned that I had a friend who will text me the gratitude lists,
Oh, okay.
the things that they're thankful for, or the things that they are, um, worried about, or whatever going on. So,
Um,
Oh, we have a comment from Reagan Miller. Let's see. It says, well, am I muted?
450 days. That's impressive.
Or 50-day streak and no fewer students is great for extra positivity. Insight Timer is another free app that has lots of meditation and mindfulness practices, including gratitude practices. Have you heard of that one, Tosh?
I don't know that I've heard of Insight Timer. I
Okay.
know that I have used oh, I used another meditation app for a while. I got a free year of it. Um, but that was a couple years ago and I don't remember what it was called. Um,
Mhm.
I did just pull up Insight Timer and it looks awesome, especially if it has a good free tier. Um, that's fantastic where it's got different guided meditations to work through and
Yeah.
especially as you're getting started, if you're wanting to get started on like a mindfulness or a gratitude journey, having helps is huge. Just jumping into it on your own can be really, really intimidating, or you feel like you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, that's awesome. We'll have to check out that app. Thank you, Reagan.
Joseph Schnitzer from Tulsa Community College says, "So glad to get to know you better. I admire your attitude of gratitude. I'm glad you live as your authentic self in all your roles."
Well, I say I appreciate that, Joseph. Um, I know that there are definitely times where it can be hard to be authentic, or it can be challenging to be authentic, or where people are encouraging you not to be, or sometimes where maybe it even is not the easiest option. Um, but I have found that it's a great way to be more peaceful in my life as well.
So I have a random question.
Yeah.
What do you do to just do for fun or leisure outside of work? Like what is, I know that you're very, very busy, with raising three kids and young kids,
Yeah, three young
and
kids.
you're the director of, SSS and everything, but what do you do to just kind of chill out and for leisure?
Um, well, a few different things. Um, One is video games. I think that's one that a lot of people around my age use. Us millennials and even our younger Gen Z. Maybe just what looks different is the type of video games. But I recently picked up a one on sale that's been out for a few years, called Hollow Knight. So I've been starting to play that. Um, but just playing some video games is a good way to unwind. I also enjoy, and this goes along with my collecting-ness, but I enjoy photography, taking pictures of stuff. And in fact, here on my desk, I have an old um, 1960s rangefinder film camera. So this one actually has some film in it. I've got about 10 shots left on this roll. Um, and so learning and research and then actually taking pictures are great ways for me to decompress. Believe it or not, research helps me decompress. That sounds really silly to say. Um, but uh, if you wanted to, we could do another session where I teach you how to use a rangefinder camera and what it looks like and how to use the exposure triangle. And this, focuses differently. This one's completely manual. So I'm setting the shutter speed and aperture manually, and I have to use like a light meter to make sure I'm getting my exposure correctly, or kind of know the things in my head, and it just gets my mind off of stuff. Um, I literally just put them over to the side so I can't reach them. I've got some Legos that I've built. I mean, occasionally if I'm, going out to grab something at Walmart, on lunch break or whatever, I'll find a Lego set on clearance, and um, I've got, I think, Miles Morales and Venom mech in here to build, and like a couple little cars to build, and stuff here in the office even, to kind of give my brain a break when I need one.
Do you like the Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man more, or do you like the uh Tom Holland? Is that the new actor with Spider-Man? Which one do you prefer?
Well, and so there's actually a third Spider-Man. There was one in between them as well, Andrew
Oh, Andrew
Garfield.
Garfield. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm gonna say something here that probably is gonna throw myself under the bus a little bit. I actually haven't seen any of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, so I don't feel like I can make a statement of whether I like one better or not. Um, we got off track of the Marvel movies like I don't know before Endgame, um, Avengers Endgame, so probably like 10
Yes.
years ago.
Yeah.
And I
I
just
mean,
haven't been
there's a
able to
lot
keep
of them to
up.
keep track of.
There is. And movies has never been something that my wife and I have like spent a ton of time with. So I mentioned earlier that she has a disability. She's been deaf since she was a child. And so just going to the movies is not an experience that we ever really did together. I think we've been to maybe three movies. Um, and we'll have our 10th anniversary this summer. Besides, dating for that and just going to movies is not something we've ever done.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
Long
congratulations on your
time, 10 years.
anniversary. Yeah, that's a
Thank
big
you.
deal. Well, do we have any more comments or questions? This is the like we
I
could
will.
do it another session with Tosh where we just like talk about all of his interests, but
Yeah,
far as his trio story, we you may not get another chance if you don't ask it now.
my office gives me a hard time because if you accidentally get me on a rant, like, or in like a thing, like I can just go off about, different things. A lot of random knowledge up in here. I will say though, back to the library thing, um, I still remember probably almost 10 years ago, there was a PhD student who was looking for a specific book on coin inscriptions for the research that they were doing. And I could only find it in two places in the world. And both were overseas and would not send it to us. And I'm still bugged by that because I couldn't solve that problem for him. Couldn't get those inscriptions.
That's crazy that they wouldn't share or copy the pages or something, because normally they're willing to, in some way, send the information to the student.
I know. It was nuts. Of all the things, two coin inscriptions.
Well, it may have had been something really relevant for his research, though.
Oh, yeah, it was. It was.
So that's terrible. He had to repivot, I'm sure.
I think it was. I think it was super relevant, but like tangential, like a great footnote with a couple sentences in the paper. Nick knows. There are times where you will be doing research and you'll read 10 sources for one footnote to make sure and verify stuff. So
One of the things we like to talk about in McNair is scope creep. So as
mhm.
you start writing your paper
Yes,
and start learning more about your project, you realize I have to find a source for this and this and this and this and this. And it's like it falls, that's the bad habit is you need to write about every single thing that has ever affected your topic. So it's a skill in and of itself to realize, no, let's actually focus in on my thing and only include the relevant materials that I need. And that's a big thing we talk about in McNair as well. So
Well,
yeah,
I think you've done a great job of keeping the main thing for our interview. So I thank you very much.
of course. And
And
thank you guys for having me.
we will go ahead and we'll draw this to a close. But thank you so much, Tosh. And I think we all have a better view of what you do.
I hope so.
So thank you. And next week, we have next week's person on, Angelica Castaneda from our Southeastern Oklahoma McNair program in Student Support Services. She is on this call. And then the week after that, we have SSS STEM person from Farmington, New Mexico, Rick Martinez. So we have that connection every week. We kind of connect it to the next person. So I'm glad that we have that as well. But thank you guys for tuning in, and everyone have a great day.